Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inside Out, security designed with, not for. We're going to be talking about co-creating usable security with people with disabilities. As introduced, my name is Kaush. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a lead UX researcher at Cisco Security. Let's get into it. Security today is often designed from the outside in. We secure systems, define rules, and then retroactively ask, will this work for everyone? But what if we turned that approach inside out? What if we designed with people, especially people with disabilities, and not just for them? What would security look like if it started with their experience, their needs, and their realities, and specifically at the center of the product development process, not the end? That's what this talk is all about, bringing people into the process early in the process. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about three main things that security practitioners should consider going forward. First, accessibility is more than compliance, and I'm sure that's not shocking to anybody in this room. I'll share some real-world examples to make that case. Then, I'll address how we can solve for one population and extend that solution to many in the world of usable security. And lastly, I'll make a case for why accessibility is a baseline for security by showing you clips from my research program at Cisco to make a case for accessibility research in particular. We'll start by thinking about some scenarios together as a group. You've probably seen an announcement like this before. It reads, if you're blind or visually impaired, ask us about getting your Social Security benefit statement in your preferred format. Guess who isn't going to learn about a benefit that's written on a TV screen? Moving on to the next one. Let's say you encounter a door which has a nice foot pull installed. The sticker on the door reads, your shoe will know what to do just above the foot pull. Guess somebody forgot to tell the hands they have to turn the door latch simultaneously to make this foot pull work. Like, imagine operating this door when both your hands are unavailable or freshly sanitized, because this is likely a bathroom door. Here's one more before I make my point. Imagine that you just got back from an eye exam where they dilated your eyes. Now you must log in and join a meeting and are met with this CAPTCHA. The screen says, find the image where the rat can reach the exact amount of cheese as the image on the left. Do you recall what it's like when your eyes are dilated at the clinic? Or forget that. Imagine being in a reactive scenario. You're trying to get to something fast, and you have to solve for mouse and cheese. All this is to say, when a security solution is inaccessible, it is not truly usable. We must bring people with disabilities into the product development process to make security secure and usable for all. So with this talk, I'm going to challenge the misconception that accessibility and assistive features are niche concerns, emphasizing instead that they are fundamental to building security experiences for everyone. And I've mentioned usable security a few times, so let's get into that. Let's talk about that as a subject first. Usable security is about striking a fine balance. It's the design and evaluation of security systems that people can understand, trust, and use effectively, while also not undermining their security goals. So it acknowledges that security is not just a technical challenge, but a human one. That definition of usable security was drawn from the amazing work of academics and practitioners who have addressed the needs of usable security in the past. A few key insights that I'm drawing from for this talk are from Porterfeld, who found that human behavior complicates security design at scale. Smith underscored that usable security must serve all roles in an organization. Hasegawa highlighted the need for research diversity and the need to involve underserved populations. It's already getting at that topic. And lastly, a study in 2023 created a research framework to go beyond checkbox compliance to improve browser security for people with disabilities. My work in accessibility research leans into these areas with a focus on showcasing that the process of building security solutions must involve people with disabilities from the beginning to account for usability, accessibility, and complicated behavior, human behavior at scale. So I'm going to go into this Spidey meme because I feel like this is the best way to depict that the goals of usable security and accessibility research and security are pretty much the same. Both encourage practitioners to focus on real-world behaviors and diverse contexts. As Kat Holmes, the author of Mismatch, How Inclusion Shapes Design, says, solve for one and extend to many. In solving a pain point for a person with disabilities, you'll likely benefit populations or situations that weren't previously considered. So think about that. Now, it is important to recognize that there is no standard normal when considering people's abilities and the contexts in which they operate. You already heard from Lisa in the first talk today about how humans are typically blamed for technology. So let's start there. The image on this slide is from the Microsoft Inclusive Design Toolkit. It shows a range of experiences for different senses like touch, see, hear, and speak. Now, question for all of you, and you can think about this. Can you think of a feature or a product that you use that caters to a wide range of contexts? One of my favorite examples for an assistive feature is closed captioning. What was originally intended for the deaf community has now become a feature that's used by around 85% of Netflix users. That's right, 85%. Addressing security challenges requires us to think about a wide range of contexts, too. We need to identify and address barriers to ensure that security solutions are truly secure. Now, disability can be permanent, temporary, or situational, and it's on us to make sure security is usable for all, right? Not only that, when you do accessibility research, you also help bridge the critical gap between compliance needs and exceptional user experience. And I could be biased, I'm a user experience researcher, so I'll show you some examples to make my point. So we can create more secure experiences for everyone by bringing people with disabilities into the research process. So let's talk about our audience next. When we think about who we build security products for, really, there can be two kinds of audiences, and sometimes they are the same people. But for this talk, let's assume it's two people. The security solutions must cater to both sides, and so in this case, we're assuming that the first is the customer who buys the product. Now, these are folks that care about compliance, regulations, and safety standards. Their burning questions can be something like, will we be legally compliant if we use this product? Or what are the minimum required rules to pass the color contrast rules, minimum required changes? The other side, the second kind of audience, is the end user, someone who just wants to get their job done without any roadblocks, just let me do my job. Things like these play on their minds. Why doesn't this document allow scrolling without a mouse? Or colors alone don't help me understand what's critical and what's not in this pie chart. Have you seen the pie charts with the red and the green? Put that in front of somebody with color vision deficiency, and they can only see brown. It's fascinating how much we have to make a distinction besides color to make a point there. So at Cisco Security, we decided to address this need by creating a research program for accessibility, and that's what I lead. Our key outcome is to support security teams in creating accessible and usable features, because we want to protect people from bad actors, or actually more commonly unintended consequences, because that's what we end up needing to deal with. So the goals are to create opportunities for teams to understand what it means to build a security product experience that's inclusive, and gather deeply human-centered product feedback from people with disabilities. And I also want to call out, one does not need a specialized degree in accessibility to be an advocate for inclusivity. This program that I've created is meant for everyone in the product development process. Now, here's a quote from a security designer that highlights how the program empowered them to apply inclusion in their role, because I'm using these words interchangeably now, accessibility, inclusivity. So inclusion. I have used this knowledge to be much more aware of question phrasing and to ensure that interviews and interview components, such as screen share, are as accessible as possible given the circumstances. Now, this quote felt like the right one to share today because you may have already started to wonder how to practice inclusion in your role. It starts with something as fundamental as announcing when screen share is about to begin or end to give people a moment to reorient themselves so they're focused on whatever is going on in the moment. To also continue thinking about what this means in practice, I'm going to ask you to consider looking at the complicated, multi-part product development process as 3 phases: design, build, and test and iterate. And remember that these phases don't often have to follow each other. Sometimes you build directly, other times you design and then test. That's why they're not represented as a cyclical process here, to make sure that that's clear. We don't have to do all of the things. We just have to make sure we include accessibility in whatever we do. So in the design phase, accessibility research can help teams identify issues with information architecture early. And I know this audience knows how important that is. One technique that I want to highlight is the Wizard of Oz testing. This is a type of methodology where a researcher simulates parts of the experience manually to observe user behavior. So I'm going to give you an example here. In a study conducted by Ally Financial, they used Wizard of Oz to gather feedback from screen reader users. They created this low-fidelity desktop wireframe, and the researcher acted as the wizard and responded as a screen reader would respond based on how participants chose to navigate. This truly helped them understand where the links should be, where the buttons should be, what should be called a button, what shouldn't be called a link, all of that. And these early insights are so crucial. They allow us to identify gaps and rethink flows before development even starts. So that's saving time and effort and a lot of money later in the process. In the build phase, accessibility research helps us analyze design choices and simplify design interactions and what that looks like during implementation. And one common issue that we typically end up finding is the unintended complexity caused by layered components. This happens when standard design conventions like drop-downs and modals and tooltips are stacked in ways that can become cumbersome for keyboard-only users. So let me give you an example here. The standard convention to select and deselect a checkbox would be the spacebar. The spacebar is also used to expand the accordion and learn what the checkbox is all about. So there's no clear way for somebody to expand the accordion and select this box when they're using only a keyboard and no mouse. So this is an example from Microsoft. And so you end up selecting temporary rich powers portion without knowing what that is all about. And I would say that's risky. I don't know about you all. I mean, that's risky. So what I'm trying to say is that by identifying these issues during the build process, we can ensure that our design choices align with assistive technology standards, but also we're making sure there's no difficult way for somebody to understand what's going on with a choice that they're making. I think that's really important in this part of the process. And if you're not convinced yet, in the test and iterate phase, accessibility research can help anticipate issues and also potentially decrease the number of post-launch support tickets. I would have made the point about support tickets in the previous phase too, but I think here it becomes even more important. We use usability tests to observe real users with disabilities interacting with the product in its nearly finished state at this stage. So that's what I'm going to do next. In the next section, I'm going to show you clips from our own research sessions to illustrate how we not only uncover issues, but also gather actionable feedback to fine-tune the product by keeping everybody in the loop of whatever is going on, especially in that last stage of testing and iterating. All right. I'm going to share 3 usability testing stories and the learnings that helped us improve security experiences for everyone. But first, let me introduce the security product you'll all hear about. Duo Mobile is a Cisco security product that is primarily used for two-factor authentication, or 2FA, to enhance the security of user accounts and systems, whether you're using a phone or a desktop. If you're logging into Office 365, for example, and you could be using your desktop or mobile device, for instance, you can use Duo Mobile to approve the login attempt on the mobile app. Okay, now that I've set the stage, let me share the first finding. Security must be flexible to prevent unintended fallbacks. We're going to watch a clip next, and this clip that we're about to watch is an example of what flexible security can look like. The person in this clip is Jennifer. Jennifer uses a screen reader to navigate the web, and during an attempt to log into Office 365 on the desktop browser, she was asked to verify her identity using a second factor, as we all typically have to. And she took the time to review each option and share her feedback. When I play this clip, the screen reader you'll hear in this clip is going to operate at the speed at which Jennifer skims web pages. So I want you to pay attention to that speed, and it'll be interesting to hear that as a group and see the reactions. The closed captions are on in this case. I'm going to keep it on in case you prefer reading to listening. So let's watch this video.
Okay, so then this is where you get a notification or code on your device.
Security key, use a security key right arrow button.
A security key. I guess that would mean that I'd have to somehow get a security key, maybe from the phone, or I'm not really sure where I'd get one. In the email, maybe? I don't know.
Phone number, get a text message or phone call right arrow button.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's easy. You just put down your phone number and then it'll give you, send you a text message or give you a call.
Consent information. Secure by duo.
Okay, well that makes...
Flexible security means that Jennifer can pick an option that's feasible, clear, and easy to access. And this type of flexibility is very important for different contexts. Providing a variety of 2FA options not only helps Jennifer. If you're in a regulated industry, you likely don't have access to a phone, in which case security key becomes the only option and the only way for you to proceed. Now imagine if everybody could only use a security key and nothing else. Security needs to be flexible. The second finding applies to all products, but especially security. Tooltips must be clear and concise to reduce user fatigue. Now in this next clip, you're going to hear from Ramon. Ramon in this example uses voice control, an alternative navigation technology that takes voice commands to navigate the web. And when Ramon wanted to pick one of the authentication options you saw in the previous video, he ran into an issue with the clips and how they were set up. Again, I want you to pay attention to something really specific here. Look at the tooltips as they pop up on the screen. Let's watch the video.
Tap dual mobile. Tap dual mobile. Nope. So show names. I can find them. Show name. Okay. See that? Yeah. So this is one of those things that I was talking to, where I understand it. It makes sense for this that it specifically has to get a notification part to it. In order for me to use it, I have to say, tap dual mobile recommended get a notification. If I don't say it, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll do the cheap way. Show numbers. Choose 5. Or I could just say.
This product would pass compliance checks, I'm sure. But does it guarantee a good user experience? I don't think so. If tooltips are not effectively labeled, finding a workaround is laborious. Ramon found an alternative way to make it work without leading to a security compromise. He called it the cheap way. But I found that this process of first determining why something didn't work and then following up with a backup plan is exactly why we need to get diverse inputs before shipping a feature. So tooltips can provide supplementary contextual information, yes. However, overly verbose content can cause all kinds of overwhelm. Third and final finding, white space requires careful consideration in security flows. You're going to hear from Carrie. Carrie is navigating the same page you all saw in the previous videos. However, she uses screen magnification to adjust the zoom level up to 20 times the original size of the screen to support her vision. She also uses color inversion, so this video you're about to watch is going to be in dark mode and it's going to be very magnified. I want you to pay attention to the frustration in her voice when the login expired because she couldn't find what was going on the page. Let's watch the video.
So one thing that is kind of hard for me is like all this empty space. I don't know if I'm missing anything or where to go. And I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm missing out on something, and like it takes me a longer time, as you can see, like with screen magnification, like to move back and forth and like kind of try to figure out where to go and what I'm missing when there's so much empty space.
So white space can cause screen magnification users to lose focus and bearings on the page. You saw that happen. especially when it's a page that involves a timed activity in a security process. Witnessing how white space can poorly impact someone's experience was very important to play back to our teams. And I'm going to say, this is not an exercise in empathy. I have no doubts that my team and this audience has a lot of that. This is about creating solutions that offer a differentiating value to our customers without compromising the security of the products for the users. Like I said, two different audiences. Pages with timed activities must be designed intentionally with landmarks to prevent user frustration and security issues, a balance of both. So to summarize, here are 3 ways in which accessibility research can impact usability research. First, accessibility is more than compliance. Meeting technical standards or passing a checklist doesn't guarantee a good user experience. Real people bring context, nuance, and insights that simulators and automated tests simply cannot replicate. By including humans, especially those with disabilities in our research, we uncover real-world barriers that technical compliance alone might miss. Remember that door that passed compliance check with the foot pull, but didn't consider real people who have to use the hand to open the latch? Second, security design must consider solving for one audience and extend it to many. By designing for permanent, temporary, and situational disabilities, we create solutions that are resilient and adaptable. It leads to better security outcomes for everyone. And finally, accessibility isn't just a nice to have. It's the baseline for security. Without accessibility, as you all noticed, security cannot be guaranteed. If users with disabilities are unable to navigate your solution or protect their accounts effectively, the entire system is vulnerable, and we cannot blame our users for it. So I'll leave you with one final takeaway. By intentionally involving people with disabilities in critical phases of design and development, we don't just meet accessibility standards. We build products that are usable, intuitive, and secure for everyone. Flexible security. This process is a win-win for our users, our customers, our teams, and ultimately our business of security. So reflect on what you've heard today and apply it to your role, whether it's involving assistive technology users in testing or advocating for inclusivity on your team. Every step counts. Thank you. What questions do you have for me?